As promised, this segment is gonna go to YouTube, so hi YouTube if you're watching this. Don't forget, after watching this, you definitely need to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and also post any kind of comments about what you think of this video, or just about something that I will be discussing in this video related to the team. Anyway, this team would be... how would I compare playing as a necromancer, like completing normal difficulty, in comparison to sorcerers, bone necro to be precisely honest here. Now you have to keep in mind that it's not gonna be necessarily a fair comparison, simply due to the fact that all kinds of gear that I was using, not necessarily from the beginning, but something from like somewhere from the Act 2 and Act 3 and 4 and beyond, was already saved from previous playthroughs that I have done and my brother have done on normal, nightmare, and hell mode respectively. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison in that regard from the point of view of items. So instead I'll be simply comparing the effectiveness of leveling spells that I was using as a necro. So get it right, I'm not gonna compare how powerful a character without spirit in hand, without unique shields, without any kind of rune wards that's already laying and waiting for him, would be against the character that had no rune wars whatsoever and struggled to find any kind of items that something that I had to deal with as a sorceress and something that my brother had to deal with as his Hammerdin. So I will be comparing spells, how effective they are for leveling, from Bone Necro versus Fireball Sorc. Firebolt / Fireball Sorc, because keep in mind, even if you're gonna go with Fireball Sorc, you still have to level up until level 9 or 11 with the Firebolt, which deals single target damage. And this is one major plus for a Necro in comparison to sorcerers, because his teeth, albeit not a very useful spell past, I would say, like at the end of Act 1, already like going into Act 2, it's not a very useful spell to use in comparison to the Bone Spear because of the lack of damage, but at the early game it's better than the Fireball and Firebolt, in my humble opinion. Better than Firebolt. The thing is that it covers huge range. It doesn't consume that amount of mana as one would expect, not as high as one would expect. And it's great because you will kill packs of monsters pretty rapidly, gain a bunch of experience, and then move on. What's next? Next spell. Let's compare Firebolt to Bone Spear. Well, here I believe that Fireball is... I think they are more or less equal, believe it or not. Why do I think like this? That's because Fireball deals less damage, true, but it covers slightly wider range, right? If you take into account instances where monsters are packed, you know, in a circle or in some kind of lines, right? And you just want to hit them 3 at a time. Whereas with Bone Spear, yes, the damage is significantly higher, something like 30 to 40%. Even if you don't take into account any kind of gear, the issue here is that it always shots in a line. Yes, it's great because it's great that it pierces straight through the enemies, so you don't have to think about, oh, will it hit the row number 5, 6, and beyond, somebody in the backline, but it doesn't have as huge range. So again, it's like a Fireball deals less damage, but it covers wider range. Bone Spear deals way greater damage, but it covers way less range. So I think they're more or less equal. Now, as far as corpse explosion go, gotta be honest with you, when it comes to normal difficulty, I did not find that many instances where I would rely on it. Yeah, sure, it was fun exploding those skeletons that were resurrecting, you know, in Act 5, and maybe some skeletons that were resurrected, that were summoned by Unravelers, or brought back in Act 2, but that's pretty much it. On the later, yeah, sure, I get it that on Nightmare and on Hell difficulty it will be way more beneficial, especially if you take into account that, just like my brother had told in his previous stream, it does percent base damage of corpse life. So if this monster had tons of HP, this damage will be significantly higher. And you should also keep into account the fact that this is gonna be your go-to option if you want to get rid of some magic immunities. Like, let's say you kill some monsters that aren't magic immune closely near to the ones that were magic immune, you explode them, and then the ones with magic immune dies. That's actually how you would get past through the Unravelers, the final wave of Unravelers in Act 5. Like, you kill skeletons, you explode them, then you explode Unravelers, GG, will play it. One of the ways, at least. The other way includes you, like, hiding behind pillars and trying to, you know, lure them away, but who needs that if you have corpse explosion? Now, what else I wanted to talk about? I would also wanted to talk about... So I compared, like, Firebolt to Tease, I compared Firebolt to Spear, and in that regard, I'd say it's pretty even. However, one thing I would want to add is that as a Necromancer, no matter which Necromancer you would take into account, you will be taking less amounts of damage throughout your journey. Why? Because you'll be constantly having at your side Clay Golem. Yeah, you may think like Clay Golem's not gonna survive for that long. Yeah, it's true, but two reasons why it's so valuable, it's so necessary and important. Not only because of his aura, but also because of the aggro mechanic. Just like with your Merc, it will be additional target for monsters to attack instead of your character. Especially, this is also pretty good because, like, once again, you're playing a caster, you're not super tanky, although you're gonna be tankier than a sorceress, which I will get to later, but nevertheless, with this in mind, and the fact that it doesn't cost you that much to summon him and to keep him by your side, you also can... It also good if you are fighting like against act bosses, because they would like to prioritize Clay Golem over your Merc. Something at least that I have noticed on against Diablo, against Mephisto, against Baal too. And yeah, this Clay Golem serves its purpose fully. The more monsters and bosses will pay attention to those targets, the less damage you will take as a caster, as simple as that. So in that regard, it's another major plus for a Bone Necro in comparison to Sorceress. Because as a Sorceress, once your Merc gets not necessarily ignored, maybe killed, yeah, but better would say it like this, you don't have any other target to protect yourself, so that's that. You would simply have to rely on your spells, on your ability to kill monsters. Whereas with Necro, pop a Clay Golem and you're good to go, at least for some time, like before you need to reconsider your options or do something else. That's that. So final note, maybe like in the future, I can say that. Oh yes, not only that, I forgot to talk about the Amplify stuff. Iron Maiden, honestly, I haven't even used it, and on Nightmare difficulty, I respect. Yeah, I understand that it's a valuable strategy if you pop a Clay Golem, pop on Iron Maiden on bosses, and once they are attacking Clay Golem, they will take massive amounts of damage back. But my damage was more than enough to handle the bosses even without it, so I cannot say anything about it. It's fun, but that's pretty much it. Like, nothing super effective or spectacular. Amplify, on the other hand, is nice to boost up the damage for your Merc. Later on, once I will unlock... Where is it? Yeah, Decrepify, optionally, but it's great because you can control groups of enemies effectively and amplify all of the damage that you'll be doing, including your magical damage, including your damage from the Merc. I may or may not put more points into it, so it will be even better as a Necro to deal with big groups of monsters. Like, you take this, you add to this Bone Wall and Bone Prison, and like, who would actually come close to you? unless they're casters and they're shooting from afar, but that's totally different story. Which is why I consider that Necro would be more, if not, yes, he will be more tankier and more safe to play on higher difficulties than the sorcerers, even if you take into account teleportation. Because the other point, like the final point that I did not mention, and that will be prevalent on higher difficulties, at least to some extent, is bone armor. At least, like, I think I'll at least, like, dedicate 1 point into it, because flat damage absorption helps a lot. Yeah, it absorbs melee damage, but... and it also synergizes well with Bone Wall and Bone Prison, spells that I will be maxing out as a Bone Necro, so even 1 pointer here will do wonders for you as damage absorption, and you'll be very well protected against any kind of tough hitting melee opponents like Lost Souls, Lost Souls, excuse me, like in Act 3, in Act 5, if you have a chance to encounter them, and that's pretty much it. In my opinion, it's better than Frozen Armor. Like, flat damage absorption, it's better than Frozen Armor, which just gives you armor and then a chance to freeze the target. So he will be more protected against any kind of incoming foes, at least when it comes to melee archetypes. So yeah, that's that. How do I evaluate him in comparison to Sorceress Final Words? Well, as far as the spell goes, again, I'm not comparing items, I'm just comparing spells. I think that for just my subjective opinion, he is more powerful, yes. He doesn't cover as big of a range when it comes to hitting enemies, but his spells are way more powerful than Sorceress. And I like him slightly better over Sorceress, at least when it comes to normal difficulty. For Nightmare, we shall see. Maybe my opinion will change on Nightmare or on Hell, although I'll doubt it, but we shall have to wait until I complete those difficulties. And yep, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, that's gonna be it for my YouTube segment. Once again, if you haven't had the chance to subscribe and subscribe to the channel, as well as like the video and share it and post some comments about it. What do you think about Necro in comparison to Sorceress, at least when it comes to normal difficulty, Bone Necro versus Fireball Sorc? Don't forget to share your opinion too in the comment section, and for the other stuff or for the remaining information, this is going to be it. Thank you for watching, I appreciate your support, and I shall see you all in the next video.